evening. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to give it about another 30 seconds and then we'll start. Okay. So again, good evening. Welcome. Thank you for joining us for this workshop this evening. This workshop is offered by the Open Road Fund through partnership with Katherine Lankford of Finance and Affirmations. The Open Road Fund is a community trust fund serving North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota. And it's stewarded through Nexus Community Partners, whose work strives to build wealth and stronger, engaged communities. The Open Road community education sessions are intended to offer resources, information, financial education, and all sessions are free, virtual, and Black-centric. So joining us tonight, let me get my slide up, is, as I mentioned, Katherine Lankford is the founder and owner of Finance and Affirmation, a financial programming that is healing centered. She is the associate pastor of Christian education and community engagement at Liberty Community Church in North Minneapolis, Minnesota. She has over 20 years of financial service experience. She is a licensed life and health insurance agent and certified financial education instructor. Katherine also contributes her invaluable expertise and insight to the Open Road Fund as an advisory committee member. So before we'll hear more from Katherine in a little bit, but I just want to go over the agenda for tonight. So on the agenda for tonight, we'll watch a video excerpt about money trauma. Katherine will say a little bit more about her approach to working with clients through her company. Then she and I had a pre-recorded discussion about our own experience with money shame, so we'll play that clip. Then Katherine will instruct us to do a body scan and guide us through some breathing exercises and offer some financial wellness advice. After that, we will have a 10-minute break, which during that break, you can either fill out a workshop survey or if you'd like, do whatever you need to do with that time. Once we return from the break, we'll open for Q&A. And I'll just mention, please enter all of your questions at that point into the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen because they get lost if you enter them in the chat. So we'll use the Q&A section for that. And let's see what else. Lastly, before we adjourn, we will hold the drawing for some money, 2 $50 gift cards. And so thank you very much for attending and good luck. And we'll watch this video clip.
Child's perspective, everybody's bigger, the world is scary, they're not sure how to navigate.
The brain is taking in the information, is making narratives from an early age.
They are looking to the people around them to show them how to interact with money.
But children don't directly interact with money, so parents don't need to worry until much later in their lives, right?
At the age of 3, this is when we first start putting together the equation of money and value.
What are the parts of my money story that I think are valuable to pass on to my kids? What were the messages that were sent by your mother, your father, your grandparents, your aunts, your uncles, significant caregivers? And how do you think it affects your financial communication today?
The biggest thing that parents can do to help their children make better financial decisions in the future is talking to them about their personal financial decisions now in the present.
How can we make sure our children learn healthy attitudes around money? And how can we confront and correct the deficits in our own upbringing? This is Your Brain on Money. So, Dr. Cable, when we're growing up, how does our brain take in money behaviors?
We're born at a stage where the brain isn't
fully developed yet. And a lot of the final development of the brain happens outside in the world, compared to other species.
And so the brain is taking in the information and is putting it into categories, is making associations, is making narratives from an early age.
And we start to develop these thoughts that are called money scripts. And so just like an actor is given a script and told in a scene how to act, when certain things happen around money, our brain gives us a certain thought, and then we know the script and how we're going to act.
Our early experiences in our family system and directly around money have a profound impact on our beliefs around money, and our beliefs around money predict our financial outcomes. If you grew up poor, money is something that's scary. Not having money is scary. The problem is that as you grow older, maybe you do have money, but you still have that fear. You still have that anxiety because you can't shake that belief that there'll never be enough money.
On the other side, folks who might be really affluent and privileged, they might think money can solve every problem, but not build up mental toughness or withstand things that sometimes money can't solve.
And so children are being constantly exposed to the attitudes, the mindsets, and the behaviors of their parents and other loved ones around them and their relationship around money.
If all of this is happening at an early age, what are the real-world effects later in adulthood?
So I think I associated not having money with pain and anxiety and family strife. My mom likes to say, we were middle class except lower. And I'm like, yeah, Mom, they got words for that. In my understanding my own financial psychology, I went home and I interviewed my mother. I didn't understand why she was so afraid to invest. And then she told me this story about my grandfather, which all of a sudden made my crazy relationship with money make perfect sense. My grandfather went to the bank one day and his money was gone. It was the Great Depression. The banks closed. He never put a dollar in the bank the rest of his life. He died in his 90s, keeping his money in a lockbox. So understanding that family pattern, it really gave me compassion for my grandfather and my mother, because of course my mom's anxious about money. She's too anxious to invest. She was raised by a guy who wouldn't even put money in the bank. So we have these conclusions we walk away with around money. Rich people are greedy, or money corrupts, or you can never have enough money, or there's virtue in having less money. These are all beliefs that we've studied that get inherited and emerge from our experiences around money.
So what can we do to help our children learn better money habits and perhaps even reconcile what was passed down to us?
The first is the earlier you start, the better off. So start early and talk about money often.
Let your child digest what it is that you're talking about money. Be sure that you don't push all the details of your financial experience on them.
And so the collection of all these money messages that we receive as we are growing up is called your money story. Pick those lessons that you want to pass down to the next generation, like passing on a legacy.
In modern society, it's gotten tougher. It's become digits on a screen. And the more abstract it gets, the more vulnerable we are to making mistakes around it. So make it visual, make it concrete.
So for a 5-year-old, it might be, this is a quarter, this is a dime, this is a dollar. And then, showing them how to make change. And as someone progresses, then you start to increase those lessons in terms of, somebody gets their first job. How do you negotiate a salary? How do you read a paycheck? So it's these educational moments that happen over time.
You might be able to say, like, sometimes, this is just a really tough time and we're going to talk about it. Maybe we're going to journal about it. Maybe we're going to take a walk. We're going to do other things to help us feel better. And that gives your child or children multiple resources of how they can deal with themselves, their emotions, and their money. If you think that you are very financially well off and so your children are fine, they don't need to hear or you don't need to talk about money, take a step back and think about your parents and your parents' parents and your parents' parents' parents, so that you can be clear that you're only benefiting your child by having these money conversations and experiences with them.
And the more you do it, the more you'll see these opportunities arise. And I think those natural financial conversations and those teachable moments are great ways to be able to express your family values, to teach your kids about money, and to do so in a way that is a little bit more palatable.
That video was produced by Million Stories and Big Think. And now I'm going to pass it off to Katherine Lankford, our guest and presenter for tonight.
Thank you so much, Shireen. It is an honor and a pleasure for me to be here with you tonight. And as Shireen mentioned earlier, my name is Katherine Lankford. I'm the owner and creator of Finance and Affirmations, a healing-centered financial education company. And so this piece that we're doing today is a part of the healing-centered piece, because you just saw that video. And as you saw, it doesn't cover every experience, obviously, that many of us have been through, but it does show how our family, our and our culture can impact our money story. All right. So one of the things that I do is before I teach kids and I teach adults, but before I get a budget and expenses and all of that type of thing, I ask them questions about their financial education because we've all had one. You may not have had a formal one at school, or even if you did, you still have had a financial education, typically from your family, your close friends or associates. We learn our habits typically through our family and our culture. And so what we're going to do tonight is dig in and discover how our family, how our money story impacts us today, and also impacts the habits that we have today. And so Shireen and I pre-recorded a conversation that the both of us had, talking about what our money story was, and how it has had an impact on us today. And so Shireen, you can go ahead.
Specifically about my parents are night and day. My mother were night and day in terms of how they, viewed money and the use of it and their habits. So my mother was, you only live one life. Money is to be spent. Trying to hold on to money is like trying to hold on to smoke, that kind of idea. And she had a health crisis and her mortgage was behind, I believe. And she had asked me to mail the mortgage. I went into the hospital. We were in the hospital room and she was asking me to mail the mortgage on a Thursday. And I believe it was Wednesday. So I did what she asked me. And I think that, I don't know, it was so far behind or the check bounced. Something happened because she ultimately lost the house to foreclosure. And I remember, though, asking her at that time about a budget, does she budget? And she got really upset, really emotional, on the verge of tears, and told me, basically mind my own business. And she doesn't want a budget because a budget is her enemy. It keeps her from doing what she wants to do. She should be able to do what she wants to do with her money. But what I do recall of growing up, both of my parents were from farming community, and we had intermittent phases of starvation and dumpster diving and stuff like that, and housing insecurity when we, lived with my mom because they had gotten divorced. And then my father, he was somebody who would squeeze $15 out of a quarter. You know, I do recall that my grandparents, his parents' house burned down, and he never wanted to spend money. Was very extremely frugal. This is a man who, when he passed, did not have hot water running in his house, and he had the skills to do it, but his health had failed, and he didn't want to pay anybody, to put a hot water heater in the house. So you can imagine somebody has arthritis, diabetes, cancer. It would be comforting, to have some hot water, take a hot bath. He didn't want to pay anybody to do it because of just his extreme view of, holding on to that money, never spend it. So when he passed, he had quite a bit of land and money, but he never really enjoyed it in his living life. So, I think that between the two of them, they're such extremes that I try to be somewhere in the middle, and they're both, to me, really cautionary tales, unfortunately, in how they, manage. But, I also understood that it was a lot of trauma of, reasons for both of them why they did what they did and the decisions that they made. So I, have a lot of compassion for that. But for me, now I'm grown, I have my own child, my own responsibilities and home that I need to take care of. And so I try to be, a measurement of both of those of how they dealt with money.
Yeah, that thank you so much. That makes so much sense. You said they were both extremes, and so you kind of find yourself in the middle. And
Mm,
so the way it's serving you now though is positive, right?
mhm.
Because you made the choice to not go to those extremes, but to be in the middle.
Absolutely.
And so that's definitely a blessing. For me, as in the intro or my bio, it said that I've been doing financial services for over 20 years. Well, in my house, my parents did fight about money. I always remember the tension about money. My mom was, very, she was not frugal, but she was kind of like, let's take care of your business. My dad was always coming up short when it came to the money. So there was tension there. And, we were not poor in my eyes because we had everything we needed. We did not have a lot of the things that we wanted, but we had what we needed. Now looking back, we may have been considered, poor. I'm not even sure like what the financial standards were for that.
Mm,
But for me, just knowing the struggle, right? I began to tie how much money you had in the bank with my self-worth. And so that is definitely not something that you should do because no matter how much money you have in the bank, you are still worthy, you are still a child of the creator and all of those things. But at the time, that's what I thought. So fast forward to 2008. I had a small mortgage brokerage. I had started investing in real estate, and the crash happened. And so I just did not plan well enough to say, hey, wait a minute, what if these people stop paying their rent? Because I did not own the houses free and clear. So when it happened, I ended up losing those three houses. I ended up having to close my mortgage brokerage because I was doing okay for myself, but I was a small fish in
mm,
a big pond and I just couldn't withstand it. So I had to get a job, go back to work. I had just had a baby. And then my husband was not making much money either because he was in construction. So what both of us was doing was tied to that industry. And then I actually eventually had to file for bankruptcy.
mm,
So I was so depressed and so full of shame because I was like, you know what? I should have known better than this. I'm the one who's always talking about money and saving and all of that. How could I have let this happen?
mm,
And so for several months, I was depressed, but having a kid has a way of getting you together and like, hey, you got to take care of what's going on. So I was able to do that. And so for a long time, I would kind of whisper to people, well, I had this happen or that happen during the crash because I was still just so ashamed. And then after a while, people start saying, well, me too. And
mm,
I was like, whoa, okay. And so more people started sharing their stories with me. And so then I'm like, well, then we need to all stop whispering, right? And begin to share what our struggles were so that we can help each other overcome these things.
mm,
And so at this point, I'm in like 100 times better shape than I was in. I've had the opportunity because I knew what to do. I was able to get myself out of that situation a lot more quickly probably than many others. But I had that money shame for so long. And there are still times when it may come up and I may like feel like, that kind of jolt of, but it's like, I'm like, no, 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 no. That's a part of my money story. I understand why it was there. My self-worth is no longer tied up into my bank account.
mm,
And I'm able to have a money story that's included with joy.
mm.
So yes, thank you so much, Shireen, for sharing. And we're going to go into the next section.
Okay.
All right, so Shireen is going to get the next video up. And I thank her for sharing that story, being vulnerable. That is one of my stories. And listen, that ain't even the only story. Okay. There's a whole lot more money shame in my story that I've had to overcome. And so what I want to do tonight, like I said, is to kind of dig in, right? We want to get to the healing part of it, hopefully, getting you through some steps that can help you kind of reflect on your process, and then hopefully get you to a place of money joy. Okay. So, what I'm going to ask for you to do is to just do some breathing with me. We're going to do a little bit of grounding. So if you, wherever you are, if you have the opportunity to put your feet on the ground, please do so, or just be comfortable where you are, kind of sitting up straight. And in a moment, Shireen is going to play some music and it's going to ask you to breathe. And so I don't want you to necessarily get caught up in where the music is. I just want you to focus on breathing in and breathing out deeply. And so close your eyes and let's take some deep breaths in. And when you blow it out, it says, let it go. I want you to make sound when it goes out, okay? So let's breathe in. Let it all go. Breathe in again. Blow it out. Now, I like that, let it go. Let go anything that doesn't need to be there anymore. Breathe in. We're going to let go of doubt. We're going to let go of shame. We're going to breathe in joy and love and happiness. Breathe in again. Blow it out and just let it go. One more time. Breathe it in. Put out. Okay, this will be the last time, and you can stop the music, Shireen. Breathe it in. And blow out. If you were hurried today, if you were busy today, anxious today, blow all of that out. And now we're going to take a moment to do a body scan. And I know that one of the things that I like to point out when we do this body scan is I want you to pay attention to your body because your body is alive. And I know that might sound weird to hear me say that, but many times we only deal with ourselves from the neck up. And we really don't think of our full selves as our body being alive unless we have an ailment or something is hurting. And so that's why we're going to take a minute to do a body scan and try to release any tension that we have. And what I want you to pay attention to also is as we go through all the exercises, I want you to recognize if your body is feeling a different way. Is it relaxing? Is it tensing up? Because your body remembers trauma, even if you don't. Your body remembers joyful things, even when you don't, because your body is alive and your body remembers. So we're going to go ahead and do the scan, and then we'll move into the exercises. So again, if you don't mind closing your eyes with me, you don't have to take the breaths, the big ones in and out, but just make sure you're breathing. And what I want you to consider first is your head. And so if you feel any tension in your head or your neck, maybe you can move it side to side to release any tension that might be there. And now I want you to consider your shoulders. And so if you feel any tension in your shoulders, you may want to drop your shoulders down. You may want to rotate your shoulders backward. Bring them forward. And then your arms at your side, I just want you to let them hang down by your side. And as they hang and you move, I want you to release any tension that you may feel in your arms, your shoulders, or your neck. Now consider your torso. So if you're sitting up, I want you to twist at the waist and release anything that you may feel in your torso area. And let that go. I want you to think about your hips as you sit in your chair and just move them around if you feel any tension. You can even move your knees back and forth to release any tension in your upper thighs. And if you are on a chair and you have the ability to just let your feet kind of hang, let your feet just kind of hang down. Rotating your feet at the ankle, rotating them to the right and then to the left on both feet. And now I want you to consider your feet and wiggle your toes. And now visualize your entire body. Place your dominant hand over your heart. Now I want you to take 3 breaths in and let them out. Breathe in and release. Breathe in and release. Last time, breathe in and release. Thank you so much for doing that with me and indulging me in the body scan. I hope you feel a little more relaxed because we are going to go ahead and go into our reflection questions now. Okay. And so if you have your pen and your paper, the first thing that I want you to consider is, or to think about rather, is what is a positive what is a positive, sorry, and a negative money memory that you have. And so the music is going to play. It plays for about 2 minutes. So I just want you to reflect on jotting down a positive money memory and a negative money memory. I'll give you some time to do that. You may want to reflect on when you realized money had value. That may be an easier way for you to reflect. Good or bad, a money memory that comes to mind. Understanding that these questions are going to resonate with people in different ways. And Shireen, did you clip the music for the 2 minutes? I believe that's what we did.
Yep, we can move on if you want.
Okay. All right. So we can go ahead and go to the next reflection question. But I don't want to rush through because I want you to have some time to answer. So I couldn't remember if we clipped the music, and that's kind of what helps me to know when to stop.
Yeah, I'll let you know when it's been about a minute for each one.
Okay. So the next thing that I want you to think about is, what were the rules about money in your family? Write down a belief like, money is hard to come by, or money doesn't grow on trees, or we don't talk about money. That's for grown folks. I want you to think about, what were the rules about money in your family? And I'll give you some time to reflect there. Okay. And so let's move on to the next reflection. I'm going to ask this question in a couple of ways. What is your emotional relationship with money? One way to ask this is, do you feel joy, pain, stress, or comfort when it comes to budgeting, saving, your credit, or investing? What emotions are evoked for you when you have to think about money and or managing money? What is your emotional relationship with money? And we'll give you some time to reflect on that. Another way to contemplate this is to write a sentence that just says, in my life, money has been, and you can complete that sentence. Okay. And the next reflection is, have you ever felt any money shame? Have you ever felt money shame? Maybe it was just for making a bad decision like I had made. Maybe for not having enough money to meet your needs. Or maybe you and your family had enough money, but money was used as a weapon against you. So I'll give you some time to contemplate that. And Shireen, can you bring the music up just a little bit? Perfect. And the last question, and we don't necessarily have to take a full minute for this one, but I want you to identify if you did feel anything different in your body as you were going through any of those steps. And it could be joy, because not everybody has had money, shame, or trauma. It could be joy of maybe a memory you had with your parents or grandparents. But if it is tension or pain, just recognize what the reaction was and when it came up for you. So we'll give you about 30 seconds for that. All right. So we will have some time at the end during the Q&A section to give some discussion to this. So what I want to go ahead and offer now are some of the pathways as you continue on your money journey. I would like to offer you a few things that I've done to get to a place of money joy in my life, okay? And so I'll focus on the affirmations in the next slide. But one of the things that I had to do, especially with that one money story that I told you, was that I had to forgive myself for past money mistakes. Me, the one who was supposed to know better. I made a mistake. And I had to get to a place where I could forgive myself for that. You may have gone through some money challenges that had nothing to do with you. It wasn't your fault, right? It could be, you know, a lack in some place, or you've gone through a divorce or what have you. But forgive yourself for any known or even just perceived mistakes, right? Because some of them really aren't mistakes. If you don't know, you don't know, right? So that's one thing that I have had to do, is to forgive myself. And another thing that I've done is that from now on, you know, I just take a mindful approach to money, right? And what that means is that I'm grateful for what I have, even when I don't feel like I have enough. I'm grateful for what I have, right? And so when it comes to managing my money, I think of ways to compliment myself. I think of ways to celebrate. I have a healthy, joyful money management practices. So when it's time for me to pay my bills, for most of my life, I've gotten paid biweekly, and so I pay my bills biweekly. And every time I sit down to pay my bills, I am so grateful that I have what I need to pay those bills. But I'm always letting the Creator know that I have room for more, right? I always have room for more. Okay? And then being mindful too, that whole thing about my self-worth being tied into that. You are worthy no matter what, right? You are worthy no matter what. And if you need to, you can seek professional help. And when I say professional help, you can get a money coach, a financial coach, you can get a partner who will help you to stay accountable to whatever your goals are. And there is such thing as money therapist. And if that is something that you need, because sometimes this stuff runs deep, right? Sometimes this stuff is complicated, and you may need a money therapist. So seek the help that you need. And one other thing about mindful money practices, when it comes to like budgeting and stuff like that, one of the things that I always say is you have to budget in joy. Okay? So whatever it is that gives you joy, keep that in your budget, because if your budget is so strict and you don't do anything, then there's no fun there, there's no life. And we're trying to get away from money shame and walk toward and continue to walk in money joy. Okay. And then another thing that you can do is simply what we did tonight. You can journal and reflect about how you're feeling. So if you start feeling anxious about money, write it down. Like, why are you feeling anxious about money? What caused that? Maybe have a journal if you're a person who just has to go, to do the retail therapy. Write down, well, what was the actual feeling that I had? Why did I feel like I needed to do that? You can journal and do that and help you kind of walk yourself through to get to an understanding, again, because the goal is to be conscious about the mistakes we're not the mistakes, be conscious about the choices that we're making so that we understand where it's coming from and that we can make a better decision on the next time. And so one of the affirmations that I have, and you can go to the next slide, Shireen, I have these affirmations that I've created for myself. And so if you want to take a screenshot, you can do that. For the affirmations. And one of the affirmations that I use, and we'll let Shireen get that up. Uh-oh, they're saying that they can't see the slides. Okay, thank you.
Can you see it
All
now?
right.
Okay.
Yes, can see it now. So one of the first affirmation here says, I deserve financial independence. Do you believe that you deserve financial independence? Because you do. And yes, Sophia, there is enough money to go around. Absolutely. All right. Another one that I say all the time, I'm going to just pick out a few of these. I save and it feels good. Saving truly does make me feel good because I know that I have a plan that if something happens, I have a way to handle the issue, right? Okay. And then let me see, I'll pick out two more and then we'll go on because I forgot our time as far as our 10-minute break. I want to make sure. This one I say around Christmas time all the time, but it works anytime. And I typically will put my hand on my heart and I will say, I give myself the gift of living within my means. That is a gift, y'all. And it's okay. You can buy the stuff that you want, you can have nice things, but it's a gift to live within your means. Okay? And then the last one is this is one, and this is not even necessarily money related. This is just me. And when you have self-doubt and all of the things that kind of come up when you're trying to accomplish things, this is the one that I say probably, I know at least once a week, right? Because I'll feel like, oh, I'm too old, or there were times where I felt like, oh, I was too young. And this came to me so very clearly. And it is, I am the right age. This is the right time to pursue my dreams. Those could be money dreams or goals that you have. Those could be dreams or goals that you have for your career, for your kids, for your relationships. But you are the right age right now. This is the right time to pursue those dreams. Okay, and so you can take a screenshot of that. One thing that I want to say before we go on break is you can use those affirmations. Hopefully some of those resonate with you, but the best affirmations are the affirmations that you write for yourself because you know what you need, right? And so you may take one of these affirmations and tweak it just a little bit because you know what it is you need. You know what it is that you are praying for. You know what it is that you're waiting for. And I think those are the most powerful affirmations that you can have. Thank you to all of you who did share. items in the chat. Thank you so much for being vulnerable. And thank you, Lavasha, for calling out the positive money stories, because I know sometimes we can focus on the negative, but there are some happy stories. And so I'm going to share one of mine from back in the day. My mom always, when she got paid, one of my happy stories is she would take us to Dairy Queen or to Baskin Robbins and we could have some ice cream. Now, I just love that because I could tell it brought my mom joy. Now, it probably led to another issue I have that I got that I gotta get through. Eating, having joy and then eating with my joy. But that is something that I remember with my mom. And then recently my son, he plays volleyball, AAU volleyball. And it's pretty expensive for him to do that. But I got to go to Chicago with him a couple of weeks ago, and then we're going to go to St. Louis in a couple of weeks. And part of my joy is having the ability to be able to go with him and share that one-on-one time with him. So those are a couple of my positive money stories that are a part of my new story, right? Because if there are some things that make you sad, I saw someone say that they had some tears, and that's normal. You're going to reflect in that way. But what we're trying to do is get to the point where we understand that and we can now begin to move forward. Okay. And doesn't mean you won't feel those feelings. I want you to feel them. But then I also want you to begin to craft what your new money story is so that you're not just reflecting on the past, but you're considering your future, right? And everything is forward looking. So I'll stop talking now.
Well, I do not see any questions. I just want to make sure. So let me reannounce that Q&A is open. So if you have questions, you can put them in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. And we can, pull those up just so that we keep the order of who's asking a question and what the question is. So feel free to populate that Q&A section with your questions. And if we don't have any questions right away, there is a question in the chat. So how can I save money?
Okay, so one of the things I also do is I'm a financial education coach, and so I will put my link in the chat. You can schedule a 30-minute complimentary consultation with me, and we can absolutely talk about how you can save money. We can talk about regular saving, we can talk about emergency fund saving, and we can talk about investing. Okay, because you know what, you really can't save your way to wealth. It's very difficult to do it that way. It's a lot easier if you, in addition to saving, you invest your way to wealth, because that's talking about the rule of 72 and your money compounding and growing. And there's someone I follow, and I love when she says this, compounding your money is your money going out and getting friends and having those friends be added to your account too. So that's what we want. So I will put that in the chat before we leave, and you can definitely schedule a consultation with me.
So if you're able to, this is just to the whole group, if you're able to put your question in the Q&A, it's better to put them there. That way we don't lose track of a question. So what was it? Please, what steps can I take to move past money shame and improve my financial confidence?
So some of the steps that you can take are the things that I talked about earlier. If there is still shame there, let's dig in and just decide, where did that shame come from? You know, what caused it? And then how can we move past it? If it's a place where you need to forgive yourself, and or you may need to forgive another person, you can do that. The affirmations are key. As you begin to think about new ways to walk on your financial journey, you have to interrupt those old patterns, right? And so an affirmation is something that you can put in place of where, oh, I'm not good at this. Actually, I can manage my money well. I have the ability to manage my own money. Just throwing in affirmations like that for yourself. And then like I said, you can reflect and journal. One of the places I love, it's a website called futureme.org. Futureme.org. And what I have done at futureme.org is you can write yourself letters. And so you can write what your goals and things are, and it'll send you a letter into the future. And then when you get that letter, you can compare that to like the steps that you've taken to get on the path that you want to get on. So I don't want to there's a lot of stuff I can say. I will put my I'll put my link in the chat, and you can also have a consultation with me. Let me leave it there, because I'll just be talking and talking.
So the next one was, how can I encourage myself to spend less?
Um Really, I think it's about understanding what your actual budget is, because you may not, now, if you know that you have a challenge in that area, then really it's just about budgeting and being diligent about your budget. You can encourage yourself, again, with affirmations, talking to yourself, being conscious, asking yourself when you go to Target. I have a friend, I like to tease her. She loves Target. Oh my God. Like, she loves Target, her kids love Target. It's like an outing, okay? And so when she goes to Target, the one thing I ask her to ask herself is this something that I really need? Or is this something that I want? And if I want it, why do I want it? Am I feeling anxious in some way? Am I feeling, nervous? Do I feel like I deserve, like, what is it? Trying to get to the bottom of why you are making that purchase. And then really creating a budget for yourself. I know I call budget the B word. Okay. But it is a B word that should have your money, right? You want to know where your money is. That's why I call my class budget better have my money. Your budget is where you can determine how much money you have. And then if you are diligent in sticking to that budget, that can also help you to spend less. I did put my link in the chat so you can schedule a consultation. I will do a consultation with you about the money story, as well as just, the regular financial things. All right.
The next question is about comparison. How can I handle feelings of inadequacy when I compare my financial situation to other people?
Okay. All right. Why are you comparing your financial situation to other people? That would be the first question I have. And I'm assuming that when the comparison is made, that you're thinking that you're worse off than they are, which may or may not be true, right? There's a whole lot of social media folk, I got to get my bag. They showing you they Birkin, and they showing you all of this. And what you don't see is the real, that they are in credit card debt. They are in, there's a lot. And so sometimes looking at other people will definitely in many ways steer you wrong, because they are putting up a facade sometimes. And then other times, like, what's the comparison? Where are you feeling inadequate that you need to make that comparison? I would say start with getting a plan together for yourself, so that you can get in the place where you don't have to compare yourself to anybody, right? You're doing what you need to be doing. And does it take time? Yes, it may take some time, but you absolutely get there.
How can I rebuild my financial confidence after making past money mistakes? So this was at the top of your list about forgiving yourself.
Yes, you have to forgive yourself. And was it a mistake? Like, I counseled someone whose parent used their name and messed up their credit. And they were like, that was their fault. And I'm like, how could that have been your fault? You were a child. Now, there are some things that you can do to get out of that and, all of that. But whatever the mistake is, I want you to look at it head on. because sometimes people do the whole, what they call putting your head in the sand. And so what I want you to think about, visualize that. If you were on the ground and you had your head in the sand, what can you see? You can't see anything, right? You exposed, right? If you're on your knees, please forgive me for being crass, but your behind is out. You have no protection, right? And so if you take your head out of the sand, it may be scary, it may be ugly, it may be the boogeyman, all of that, right? But once you look at it, and you begin to take it like little by little, step by step, then you can tackle what's going on in your finances. Excuse me, I hope that did not offend I hope that did not offend anybody, but it's that's kind of how I look at it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, but are we finished with that thought?
You said resources and support groups. That's a good, I don't,
I'm sorry, Catherine,
there's
before we
another
move
one?
on to
Okay.
that one, there's one in the Q&A. How can I stop how can I stop spending on things that are not necessary?
You have to determine what's necessary, right? You have to have a good, hard conversation with yourself. Is this a need or is this a want? And if it is a need, okay. If it's a want, it's okay sometimes, right? But you got to get yourself in a place where it can be okay more of the time, right? Because you're putting a plan together and getting yourself in a place where it's like, you know what? I can budget in that, because what I tell you, got to budget in some joy, right? If everything is just doom and gloom, then you're not going to stick to it. All right, I'm going to stop reading the chat. I'm going to let you read the chat. I'm going to close my eyes. Go ahead.
What resources, then that one comes. What resource or support groups do you recommend for people struggling with money shame?
I would say find an accountability partner. So if you do, like, you could talk to me. Maybe I just need to put a money support group together, huh? I would say find an accountability partner, someone that you can trust, that's not going to cause you more trauma. There's a thing that me and some of my friends say, okay, no judgment, no judgment. And we can talk to each other in that way and then hold each other accountable. But you know what, whoever that is, please schedule something with me and I will think about actually the support services and the resources, because I can give you resources on how to budget and all of that, but the actual support piece, that's something that you may have to seek out on your own.
Okay. And just a time check, we have about 15 minutes left and we'll still be doing the drawing. So if you do have a question, now's the time to ask. I see one. How can I avoid impulse purchases? So that's kind of similar to the one you just answered. What is your take on relationships, familial relationships, where family members who make financial life difficult? Someone who's constantly being asked for things from their family.
Mm-hmm. Um, you got to tell them no. I know that sounds easy, but you have to tell them no. You all know the thing where it talks about in the airplane, you got to put your mask on before you can help someone else. And sometimes telling them no is helping them. They, of course, this varies based on circumstances, relationships, all of that. But if you're constantly giving out all of your money, how are you going to take care of you? And that's not a selfish thing to ask. Because sometimes we're like, oh, I just got to give everything away. How are you going to take care of you? So those are some what they call critical conversations that you have to have. And if you are a giver and you love to give, maybe you just say, listen, I've given this much, and so you can't come back to me for like 3 years. If you need something, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to help you. and let them hopefully begin to work on their own. And hear me, because I know we as African Americans and people of color, we take care of each other, right? We take care of our family members and all of that kind of thing. But sometimes, how are you going to help if you give it all away, right? So I'm not saying I'm not trying to be insensitive to your family structures and your culture and all of that, but if your sister is always asking and she is never made to stand up for herself, then she potentially is going to have you in a financial situation also. So hope that helps.
And one question is about guilt. I'm not sure what kind of financial guilt, but it says are there any mindset shifts or habits that can help break the cycle of financial guilt?
Okay. So I guess it depends on what the guilt is. For instance, I know a guilt that I have is mommy guilt, right? I want to be able to do everything. I want to be able to do this. However, again, my child is okay. You got to affirm yourself. My child or whoever is okay. They have everything they need. And this is not something that I can afford right now. And you just remind yourself of that. My daddy used to say, my dad was so silly. Did you die? They gonna be all right. Of course, like that. Sorry. They will be all right. And so for me, my business is called Finance and Affirmations. Affirmations are huge for me. And I know sometimes people are like, they don't want to hear it. But I'm telling you, if you rehearse that in your mind, that becomes your reality. And one time I heard someone say that we talk so negative to ourselves, like we could get charged for like stalking, right? And harassment if we if we were to talk to other people the way we talk in our own head. So again, you got to interrupt that pattern and begin to fill it with something that's going to be affirming and going to send you in the direction that you want to go.
So we are going to go ahead and do the drawing. And let's see, Lavasha, who is also, there are other team members I should also mention on this call. Most of our team is here tonight. And Lavasha is going to do a drawing for the 220, what am I saying? $250 gift cards. So we're waiting.
Alrighty, so I'm gonna do the drawing. We did the names for folks that registered, so there may be some folks that aren't here tonight. You do have to be present to receive the gift card. So if you see your name, I'm gonna share my screen in a bit here. If your name is chosen and you see your name, just kind of put something in the chat so that we know that you're here. Ready? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Alrighty, perfect. All right, so let's see the first person. Zoe T. Is Zoe T here?
And if you're here, just put it in the chat that you're here, Zoe T. So maybe we can move on.
I didn't see a Zoe, but I just wanted to make sure. Okay, I'll remove that person. That means y'all got a little bit more chance now. Let's see. Ooh, is that Michelle that was in the chat?
Oh, who spoke an affirmation?
Sure. Michelle H.
Yeah, I hope to win.
Yep.
Speaking into existence.
Okay, so Michelle H is the first person, and then I'm going to choose one more person. So the second person is Sharanti. I didn't see a Sharanti here tonight, but if you're here, I'll give you a couple seconds just to kind of put it in the chat. All righty, I'm gonna move on. Carrie, is Carrie here tonight?
Oh, yes.
Carrie's
Yes.
here.
All right.
All right, we got our 2 winners. So what'll happen now is we'll follow up with you all via email. We have your emails on file to get your gift cards to you, and they'll come electronically, I believe. So we'll be following up with you. Pass it back to you.
So that is all for the evening. Thank you all so much for attending, and Catherine for making some last minute accommodations. But just being wonderful and presenting tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we will conclude. And if you know anyone who is here who wants to share this, this will become available on YouTube. We post all of our sessions. We also have some more upcoming sessions. So stay tuned for those. And we post all of those on Instagram, Facebook, so you can register just like you did for this one. And the next one is February 26th. That one's going to be economic ownership and economic power and ownership. And then there's also one in March, which is about housing, single family housing, single family home ownership. And in April is education, focusing particularly on if you're pursuing, a degree from, in a traditional sense, from a higher education institution, and then how to go about that, and some tips. And then the last one will be health and healing in May 14th, and that one will focus on mental health and self-care. Rest is the revolution is the title of that one. So if you are interested in any of those, make sure you register for those and follow us on Instagram and Facebook as well. Thank you so much. Have a good night. And we will send those gift cards.
Thank you, Catherine. Have a good night, everybody.